be kind, and be polite. But that was ages 1 to like 4. Then things started getting more difficult. You had to speak differently with different people, you had to think before you spoke, and you had to think about how you felt, and it was all so sudden and strange. And there was always that one person who did it effortlessly, who they were just so brilliant at it. But despite that, they still made you feel good about yourself and everything around you. Now, for a long time, I thought that this was just people who were naturally gifted with a dazzling personality and just wonderful people by nature. But as it turns out, there's more to that. It's not a gift. It's something we all have inside. It's just some people have it better developed than others. And that thing has a technical term for it, emotional intelligence. Very difficult term to understand, I agree. But what the basis of emotional intelligence is being aware and being able to identify your own emotions and the emotions of others around you. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, I kind of don't, but I assume that you're thinking, hey, managing your own emotions is probably the most basic thing in the world, and I agree. It is. But here's the thing. Like many other things, thinking about your emotions and trying to manage them never gets past the thinking about part. Now, I feel like the easiest way to describe what emotional intelligence is your street smarts. How you react to things around you, how you react to your environment, to people around you, when something happens that has a great effect on you. How do you react to it? Now, ultimately, we are all just energy. I am energy, you are energy, and this energy that we have in us, the vibrations we have, the vibes we give off, if you will, all relate back to our emotional intelligence. Are you, let's say you're sad or angry or just ecstatic, do you know why you're sad or angry or ecstatic? Because if you don't, subconsciously it's getting to you. It affects your brainwaves. It affects your brainwaves, your chemistry. It affects everything about you, your mood, your physical state, and it affects how you act and how you carry yourself and how you interact with other people around you. Now, these, again, are all related back to our emotions, but let's break it down. What are emotions? What is one? Is it listening to an old favorite song and remembering what you did when you first listened to it and reliving all the memories that come along with the song? Is it thinking about something someone said to you and laughing like an idiot, which is what I'm doing right now, because what they said was really nice and made you feel really good? Is it wanting to cry and scream into your pillow and never wanting to leave your room again? Is it what I'm feeling right now? I am giving this TED Talk, and I'm absolutely terrified I'm going to forget everything I'm supposed to say, but I'm still going through with it. Emotions are the core of who we are as social beings. They dictate everything about us. They are reflections of our chemistry, of the chemical reactions that happen in our brain. They are everything that makes us, that makes us such individuals, and makes us so much different than other species, and so on and so forth. Now, the thing that I said about emotions and vibrations and all that, that's kind of hard to understand because they don't have a physical state. I mean, they don't have a physical presence. It's not like something you can touch or you can see. It's something that you assume is there, and that's something that you assume happens. So if I were to say that these vibrations that we give off impact us, there's no real way to observe that. I mean, if I was talking about a ball and a ball hits you, you feel that, you feel the ball and you feel the pain, but the vibrations that are given off by other people, you can't immediately feel those. My aunt, from my father's side, has a lovely garden, and she lives in a neighborhood that's filled with lovely gardens. And a couple of years ago, well, more than a couple of years ago, they started a yearly gardening competition. And I'm telling you, oh, hello puberty, and I'm telling you, my aunt looks forward to that. My aunt looks forward to that competition more than she looks forward to seeing me once a year, or anyone for that matter. And you don't really get much from the competition. I mean, you get a green ribbon and some street cred, but she gets very excited. Now, I asked her, what has she been doing that's been making her win? She's won for the past 5 years, consecutively. I don't know how she does it, but I asked her, and I was thinking, wow, she probably uses like the best fertilizer there is. She probably waters her plants with water from the top of Mount Everest. She probably has soil from the Garden of Eden itself. Jesus himself came down and gave her the soil because that's how she's been winning. As it turns out, it's neither of those things. And trust me, I was just as surprised as you are. What my aunt does is she talks to her plants. Yeah, she's fine. No, she's not desperately alone and needs a pet. She already has 2 cats. But when I asked her about it, why are you talking to your plants? That's not something a lot of people do. She said, well, the way I see it, plants are living things just like us. We all know that. And so if we interact with one another, and those interactions do what they do, why wouldn't we not interact with plants? As it turns out, my aunt talking to her plants is probably the key to her success. It's probably why she's been winning for so many years. Because it turns out plants really like small talk. Because none of her other neighbors talk to her plants. None of them are encouraging towards their plants. None of them say positive things to them, such as, wow, you're a lovely magnolia, and you're going to do great this year. Thanks. No one else does that, but she wins. It's weird. I know, but say that to her 5 green ribbons. Anyways, you're probably thinking, what am I going to do with that information? I'm going to go home and talk to my trees? I'm not a plant. You're not a plant. I know. But, as I said, plants are living things just like us. And if we are encouraging to the plants, and if we are positive towards them, and if we give off these positive vibrations and vibes to the plants, and they react in a way to grow like that, how do they react? How do we humans react? How do we humans react to them when we ourselves have vibrations of our own that we give up to other people? Now, think of it this way. If I had an excessive amount of bad energy, like I was super sad one day, and I talked to someone and I opened up to them about my super bad sadness, then they, to a certain extent, would also feel bad about my sadness. Because I opened up to them and I was like, oh, this is what I'm feeling. And they'd be like, oh, I feel you. Okay, that's really sad. And then they'd be sad. It's the same thing with anger. If I was in a really, really bad mood and I was rude and prickly and I talked to someone and I was being rude and prickly to them, then they would get annoyed with me for being rude and prickly and for not being a nice person. And that bad energy that I'm giving off would bounce off to them too. And I know it's starting to make more sense. When I thought of it, it started to make more sense when I did things like this. And also, it's the same thing with good energy. When you're walking down the hallway and you see someone smile at you, and it's one of those genuine smiles, you know, like you look at them and then you feel happy and you smile back, then you feel happy too. It's this whole idea that these vibrations, even though they're not as obvious as a ball hitting you in the face, they're still there. They're still evident, and you still are able to be affected by them. They still affect you. Now, like I said, if my aunt by my aunt being encouraging to her plants and being positive towards them, if that makes her the neighborhood alpha, how does me, knowing what energies I'm giving off and what energies I'm receiving, how does that impact me? How does that impact my physical state? How does that impact me as a person and my emotions and all that jazz? Now, the question is, what makes you emotionally intelligent? What is it? The founder of the new theory of emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman, states that there are 5 categories to emotional intelligence. Now, I think it's safe to assume that I am the least emotionally intelligent person in the room. So I'm going to use myself as an example, and then you can say, oh, wow, yeah, I totally do that, or I've never done that. I am very emotionally intelligent, or yes, I do that too. I am just as bad as you are. We're on the same page. So the first category of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. Basically, you are in touch with your own emotions. You know what's happening in your own head. You realize how you're feeling, why you're feeling a certain way. You're not really in depth yet, but you're not completely out of the loop. For now, yes, I am self-aware. I'm giving this TED Talk. I'm kind of shaking. Don't want you to know that, but it's too late, and that's fine. The second category of emotional intelligence is self-regulation. Now, once you're self-aware, and once you know what's happening in your own head, you're able to see what's happening around you. You're able to see, oh, this is a situation that's happening. This would be the appropriate response for me to do. This is something that would be appropriate to do. Picture this. You are crossing the street. It's a busy road. The light's about to change, and you're walking past a woman who has grocery bags in both of her hands. As you're walking past her, you're minding your own business. As you're walking past her, her skirt falls down. What do? See, now this is where you use your self-regulation, and you would use your self-awareness and all of that to help her and not run away like how I did. But granted, I was 9 years old. I was scared. I was scared a car was going to hit me. I was scared a car was going to hit her, so I just fled, left the poor woman there with the grocery bags and her skirt on the floor. She was fine. I checked. Somebody helped her. Just not me. Now the third category, and probably one of the most important ones, is social skills. Now, if you are an emotionally intelligent person, then you are able to communicate with people. You are able to take yourself and talk about your emotions and talk about things that are getting to you, things that are bothering you in your environment. And so an emotionally intelligent person is capable of talking about things that may not be the best thing to talk about, the most pleasant thing to talk about, but they still do it nonetheless. Now, I am on opposite sides of the spectrum. I either open myself up and tell people everything about me, my deepest internal struggles. I tell them, I just pour it all out. Even though if it's not relevant, we could be talking about trigonometry and I tell you about that one time I saw a cat die. Tragic. But I could either, something I also do, is I close myself up. I don't say anything. I suffer in my angst and I just deal with things by myself and don't tell anyone about anything. Neither of those are good. You need to find a balance. You can't be at both extremes. You need to find a balance. So there are things, yes, that you need to communicate with other people, such as if you have a friend and they're really not that great of a person and it's getting to you, you need to communicate with them, saying that, hey, your vibes are throwing me off, and this is not good for me or for you. But at the same time, you need to take time to evaluate yourself. You need to take time to see if you're doing something wrong. There are certain things that you need to deal with by yourself. You can't expect to open up to someone about your deepest internal struggles and have them swoop in and save the day. That's not how it works. But there are things, again, like I said, that you need to work by yourself, with you, just you and you. See? Self-awareness. We're tying things in together. This is good. Now, the fourth category is motivation. Someone who's emotionally intelligent is able to see the bright side of things, pick themselves up, down if something happened. If they need to start over again, they're going to do it, because that's just how the way things go. Now, this is very important, and also I am the worst at this, because I hold on to things that I did in middle school, because I think they still define me as a person. Here's the thing. They don't. That lame thing you did years ago, yeah, terrible. Probably funny for everyone else but you. But it's gone. If that scenario was ever to happen again, you wouldn't do the same thing because you've learned from it, because you are now more emotionally intelligent, because you've grown from that moment. And you're able to let go of the awkwardness of the moment or the sadness of the moment, and you are able to hold on to other things, happier things. Now, the last category, probably the most important one, is empathy. Now, with empathy, this means, in the idea of emotional intelligence, it means that you are able to remove yourself to get out of your own head and help other people become their best self. Once you have a good enough understanding of your own emotions, you are then able to help other people grow and be their best self too. You are able to allow them to communicate with them, happier things. Now, the last category, probably the most important one, is empathy. Now, with empathy, this means, in the idea of emotional intelligence, it means that you are able to remove yourself to get out of your own head and help other people become their best self. Once you have a good enough understanding of your own emotions, you are then able to help other people grow and be their best self too. You are able to allow them to communicate with them, to tell them, oh, this is not something you should do in this situation, self-regulation. You are then able to motivate them and ultimately help them be self-aware. The thing about emotional intelligence, like I said, self-awareness is important. But there's a difference between being self-aware and self-absorbed, because you need to be able to identify your own emotions. You need to know what's happening in your own head. But once you know that, you need to be able to take yourself out of the equation and just say, okay, I know what this feels like. I have been over this. What did I do that made it better? Or what would I have done that made it better? So once you know your own emotions well enough, you are able to, once again, get out of your own head and help the people around you. Very few people are blessed with a dazzling sense of their emotions. And granted, I am very jealous of those people. But the thing about emotional intelligence that makes it such an important part of our lives, but at the same time that makes it something that is just something we all need to incorporate in our lives, is the fact that you never stop learning. You never stop learning about yourself. You never stop learning about the people around you, about your environment, and you're always given the chance to grow and become a better version of yourself. This is where emotional intelligence comes in. This is where you are able to see, yes, that's what I did wrong before, but now I know to do something else. I know to work on it. And the best thing is, maybe this is what's been holding you back all along. Maybe the fact that you haven't been letting go to things that you did back in elementary school, or the fact that you let a woman in the middle of the street with her skirt down, and it's still haunting you to this day. Maybe that's what's been holding you back. And so now, you can use your emotional intelligence to get over it. So after all this, I might have just told you you're emotionally dumb. What can you take away? Be smart, be kind, and be polite. But most importantly, be positive, because that will somehow have an effect on you. Whether you like it or not, it's going to come back to you. So I guess think and feel and think why you feel. Thank you.